Yeah, right. Hi, Zara. It's so nice to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much to your audience for taking the time to listen about the
Yeah,
topic that we're discussing today.
yeah, beautiful. And I am so excited to have you on the show, Zara, for some reasons. All right. The first one,
Okay.
I believe that knowledge is so important, and in order for one to get unstuck in whatever situation one is stuck in, one needs the application of quality information knowledge to get unstuck. Now, the second reason why I'm excited to have Zara on the show is because of the folks who are going to be listening, the audience. I believe there are some things that Zara knows that some of my audience needs to hear you say this stuff, directly from your mouth, in order to experience transformation. I firmly believe that. And thirdly, that is, I myself, I believe I am definitely going to learn one or two things from your story, your insight, and your experiences. So, for that reason, Sarah, let us get started with your introduction. The journey, how the journey has been so far, the challenges that you faced, and how you overcame them. Then, afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Zara, over to you.
Well, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. My name is Zahra Adloo. I am a psychedelic integration coach. I specifically work with psilocybin and Ibogaine, and I'm also a psychotherapist and a yogi. And I'm here to raise awareness about the benefits of Ibogaine for mental health purposes. And some of the challenges that I would say I've faced have to do with my own mental illnesses. I was diagnosed with complex PTSD, body dysmorphia, which is a form of OCD, generalized anxiety disorder, and all of these, I guess you would say, deficits and struggles that I dealt with led me to wanting to seek more of an understanding towards how I could heal myself. And as a therapist, I think it's very essential for any therapist that's working to constantly look for revolutionary modalities that could help not only themselves, but their clients. Otherwise, when you sit across a client, you really don't have a therapeutic alliance that's based on trust. And for me, trust and honesty is very essential for a relationship that I have with my clients. And so I can go a little bit further, but I'll let you lead because I can continue to talk forever. But that's pretty much where I'm coming from.
No, that sounds good. And you mentioned some powerful words. You said you tried to seek more. And I feel like many people remain stuck because they refuse to seek more. So now, getting to listen to someone who went after more insight, solution, insight, knowledge now. I feel like there are folks who will be able to relate with you very well because you've proven that knowledge is so important and it is powerful. Okay, so shall we get started with the questions, Sarah?
Sure, let's go
All
ahead.
right. Now you mentioned Ibogaine. I don't know if I pronounced it well now. Okay. So can you talk to us about the transformative power of Ibogaine therapy?
Absolutely. So Ibogaine originated from this root bark called Iboga. So Ibogaine is actually a chemical compound in a root bark of Iboga that is from its origins is from West Gabon or West Africa in Gabon, Africa. And so it's been used for centuries for, ceremonial purposes and connection and rituals to enhance the community. But what it's really popular for in this westernized culture is for its anti addictive benefits and how it's cured several people with addictions that are related to substances and behavioral. On top of that, it helps with mood disorders. So, people suffering from anxiety, depression. For me, it was OCD. And now, recently, they're doing a lot of research on its benefits for Parkinson's disease as it actually eliminates the shakes that a person has after they have treatment. So I came about this plant medicine through a video I watched. It was a documentary titled Dosed. I saw this documentary right in the start of my internship experience in school as I was becoming a therapist. And it always stood out to me because it was a document that was following a woman with a gnarly heroin addiction. And as I don't know, I've never really been around people who had addictions to substances. So I really didn't know what to expect. My image of people with a person with addiction was someone like on the streets shooting, and like completely homeless. But this woman presented as highly functional under heroin and was addicted to it for at least 10 plus years. And she went and did an Ibogaine treatment and was completely out of her addiction. So that's something that stood out to me in the back of my mind when I first started my internship. And then I actually got placed into a substance abuse facility for my internship experience. So here I have this knowledge, and then now I'm going into this westernized approach, this broken model of treatment in the facilities that exist in the US, that basically like cater to their clients through group therapy, individual therapy, and I guess just like willingness to want to quit. But I say that it's a broken model because it actually does not work. It takes on average 7 attempts at treatment for someone to actually come off of the substances that they've been on. And now with the prevalence of fentanyl, people are not given the 7th time, they're dying. And so I started as a therapist in Encino, California. I had to do it to earn my hours and get licensed in that state. And what I saw over the course of the 2 years that I was working was that a client would come in, they would spend a number of, hours and days in treatment, and then they would leave for a little bit and then relapse and come back and repeat this like whole new cycle again. So it was like a revolving door. And once I realized that, I decided, once my hours hit that 3,000 hours I was required to get, I quit. And I was like, I need to look for something else. I need to seek something better that actually helps people. And that's where I came back to Ibogaine. And so what better way of like learning about this modality that can help people than to try it myself? And so I went in head on. I went to a clinic in Mexico. I did 2 different treatments, and it completely changed my mind. It completely changed my life. And that's why I'm here right now advocating for it, because I don't think a lot of people in the world know about this hidden gem. And I need for people to have the awareness that there is something that can help them, that changes their neurochemistry, that gets them out of the chains of addiction, the chains of their own negative thought patterns that hold them back from reaching what they're supposed to do and the untapped potential that's within them.
Oh man, you said some important words again. Potential that is within them. That's a good one. And that's how to know, that's one of the ways to know a good leader. You mentioned that you want to create awareness for other people to know that there's a way now to get, free from this addiction stuff. And you mentioned that you tested it first,
Yeah.
before you start to tell other people about it. Oh man, it's so good to meet Zahra again, I tell you. I love that. Okay, so we still have some questions here. All right. Now, how were you able to navigate life, with a narcissistic parent? How were you able to go about it?
Okay. So first, I had to accept it and acknowledge that it was there. And I started to read books about it. There's a really good book by Shahida Arabi. It's called Navigating Narcissistic Abuse from Parents. Don't take the title verbatim, but I do know the author Shahida Arabi. So I listened to her whole audiobook, and then I decided to join a support group. So what the support group did for me was it validated my experiences, because when you grow up with a narcissistic parent, you are really confused as to what reality really is. In one way, they present themselves to the general public and to outside family members as this savior, as this really nice person who's giving and just totally immersed in the human connection with others. And then when they're in the presence of you within your immediate family, they show this whole other side. And so there's just like cognitive dissonance. You don't really understand what is real and what is not. So even with me taking the time to accept that this was my experience, it took me that support group to validate that like what was going on was real and that like this is what I had as a parent. And so I really dove into that. And then I've set really good boundaries with my father. So I accept that he is operating from a certain capacity. I no longer look for someone to fulfill his role. I no longer dream about the father that I wish I could have had. I accept things for what they are. I take every lesson as a growth gift. And I set really firm boundaries because at the end of the day, he is my father, but I've physically like moved far away from my father, and I've also just limit my communication with him. And for me, anything that disrupts my peace is not worth my time. And I think that that's how you have to lead with people like that, because they are wired to dysregulate you, and it's just not worth it. It's not worth your peace. It's not worth your sanity. And also, it's not worth you being inauthentic because they expect you to present yourself in the way that they would like to see you, and that it may not be who you are. So for me, being completely authentic is the key to me feeling the best way possible and feeling loved for who I am. Do it. Yeah, so what it does is it targets many different receptor sites in the brain. One of them, which I could talk about, is the kappa opioid receptor. So, what that does is it actually drives feelings of stress and unhappiness. And so, when that receptor site is overactive in the brain, you start to seek dopamine. You start to seek ways in which you can receive dopamine, which in many ways comes from drugs, with it, which is artificial. And so, you're constantly seeking to feel at ease and to get rid of this dysregulated, anxious feeling inside. And so you seek means that are unhealthy for you. And so once that gets reset in the brain, which is what the Ibogaine does, you start to become more resilient. You start to see life for what it is. Your dopamine receptors get reset as well. So you start to you're able to sit through and have a larger window of tolerance for the experiences that come with what life is. So anything that might have felt anxiety provoking for you in the past are not now tolerable, and you can see like life unfold in front of you in such a beautiful manner, and you get to like actually experience how like nice it is to not know and to see how empowered you are without the drugs or things that were temporary. Like for me, for example, there are moments that still come up because this is life that are stressful, but I don't resort to shopping or picking at myself to ease my discomfort anymore. I kind of just see it as like a cloud in the sky. You're more mindful. And then you get to understand why things happen the way they do and why the universe aligns certain experiences and people in your life to just help you elevate your consciousness. I think when you don't have that brain reset, you are constantly seeking to know what's next because you're so dysregulated. And Ibogaine allowed me the opportunity to not have to know. and to just live and take things day by day and be more present and mindful. So that's just one of the benefits of it through the kappa opioid receptor site. Um, there's so much more I can do, but I know we have another question. Yeah. Yeah, so body dysmorphic disorder can manifest in many different ways, but the root cause of it is anxiety. And so it's a form of OCD, and it's when a person has these perceived flaws about themselves that they cannot get out of their mind. So, for instance, it could be like the way someone's nose is shaped, or it could be, their weight, or it could be their hair. But what happens is, like, even if they were to fix their hair, it would move on to something else that they pick at. So each time someone gets triggered and is anxious, they start to internalize it and pick at themselves. And for me, the way it manifested was through trauma. Most people experience it through trauma, and for me, it was childhood trauma for me. My father, I grew up in a very conservative Muslim home. And so he would sit outside my room every single day when I was going to school, and he would pick at what I was wearing and how I looked. And I was pretty developed for my age. So I had curves, and, you know, as a teenager, when your body's changing, you're already uncomfortable. But then when you have someone sitting outside your room pointing it out to you and telling you need to wear a longer shirt, or your clothes need to be baggier, you start to, and they're your parents. So you're reliant on them, and you can't lash out. You can't say anything. So you hold it in, and it manifests into, oh my God, something has to be wrong with me and the way I feel. So you become to get like disconnected from your body. And that was my experience. I felt very disconnected. I didn't want to be in my body. I felt like everything was wrong. And so anytime something would happen and I would get anxious, like I would feel right as soon as I would walk outside of my bedroom door, it became a ritual where I had to pick, and this wasn't right, or this wasn't good enough, and I had to wear a full face of makeup and go out in public a certain way. And what this did for me, at least with Ibogaine, is it let me like not care. It like calmed me down and calmed my anxiety, and now I don't think about those things anymore, and I can think about how I can expand as a human being versus what's on the exterior. So a lot of people with body dysmorphia don't realize that they have it. And most of society, with social media, the comparisons on social media, they start to, if they don't even already know that they have it, they start to form it because you see one thing and then you want to live up to that. But what we don't know is a lot of it is through plastic surgery. A lot of it is through filters. So it just is something that drives you to constantly pick and criticize yourself in the form that it presents externally. And it's really debilitating because your mind constantly thinks about it. Like, you can be sitting in an office space working, and then you'll continuously think about how someone is, perceiving you, because for some whatever reason, everybody can see that you have big ears. It's all in your head. But you think that, oh, maybe people are noticing me because of my big ears, and maybe they're not being friends with me because of that. Like, you start to ruminate and go down this like shallow path, and it's, yeah, like I said, it takes you away from you expressing yourself and you being all of who you are versus just part of who you are, which is what is presented on the exterior. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm so happy that. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you all for first listening to me. You can find me at Z Shirazi on Instagram or zahraadloo.com. So www.zahraadloo. I'm also on TikTok as Zahra Adloo Therapy. But one thing I can say that would be a takeaway, and I would love to share and expand this out with the world, is I live by the SAS model. I made this up myself. So self awareness, authenticity, and support. We are wired for connection, so you need support. You are loved and you are created with love. So always be authentic, and the right people will come into your life. And self awareness, always seek to understand yourself more. You're never ever going to know, like, you're what I see as a transcendent, eminent person. So you are constantly evolving. And with that evolution, you need to constantly get to know yourself. And through that, you get to be more authentic. And through that, you get to have the support you need that is connected and symbiotic to your being at a cellular level. So I hope that that is something that people can take away. And I hope it resonates that you are love, we are love, and always honor yourself by doing those three things. Absolutely. Thank you.